Hey, everybody, it's Rebecca Johnson of Supergirl Radio. We're going to get started here officially in a little bit when Morgan joins me. But this week, we are going to be talking about my trip to Metropolis, Illinois to go to Superman Celebration 2025. I've been trying to go every year since 2019. I missed a year for COVID reasons during the pandemic in 2020, but I've been able to go ever since then. If you are not familiar with our Superman Celebration episodes, we cover the gamut of things. Normally, I only get to go for the day. I usually go up on Saturdays, so I don't get to cover everything that happened. I didn't get to stay for their big drone show on Saturday night, but it looked pretty spectacular from some of the pictures that I saw. So I'm sorry I missed it, but I did go to my annual pilgrimage, as it were, to the Super Museum there in Metropolis. I recorded some Q&As that we'll talk about some of the people, the celebrity guests who were there. And we'll talk about some of the things that I saw in the Super Museum, some things that I learned. I always learn something going into the Super Museum. There's a particular thing that I saw in the vendor area, the street. There's a street that leads into the Superman statue, and there's vendors, food vendors, people selling stuff. And there was something that I'm very excited to show to Morgan because I think she'll get a real kick out of it. So we're going to be talking about all those things. And of course, I bring clips I wouldn't want to talk about Q&As if I didn't have clips. So we'll have clips on this live stream here, but we'll also release the full Q&As with Odette Annable and Anais Fairweather, who voiced and played, I guess you could say, the character of Supergirl on DC Superhero Girl. So we'll have those Q&As coming out soon on the DCTV. Oh my goodness, I say it all the time and now I'm screwing it up. The DCTV podcast YouTube channel and the Supergirl Radio Facebook page. Not Facebook page. Oh my gosh, I am losing it. The Supergirl Radio podcast feed is what I'm trying to say. Morgan, I see you're down there. Are you ready to go? I hope you are able to speak more clearly than I am. And also,
Never.
I'm just gonna tell you, your hair looks great. I just want to right out the gate. I just want to tell you,
I got it done today. I had to come correct to the podcast.
I just wanted to tell you that so we could just, get that out of the way.
Acknowledge and move on.
Hair looking great. So we're going to be doing Superman celebration stuff, but we also have some news that we've got to get to, some things that are being talked about. Supergirl's being talked about, but like it's not the focus, but like she's in the conversation in interviews that are happening with the Superman movie.
Be the focus. I mean, I think this is well established.
She should be in conversation as they're promoting the Superman movie, because we all know we're not there for Superman. We're just here for Supergirl.
We're just here for Supergirl.
So that's what people should be talking about. But I guess we should go ahead and get started. Morgan, I think you have the doc of some of the things that we're going to be talking about. So we will guide everybody through my time in Metropolis and talk about some of the things that I saw and heard. So enjoy the journey to Metropolis. I'll take you with me as we go, and we will go ahead and get started.
McGurk! I love typing.
Not mess with my Google Docs, Meeksy.
Supergirl Radio is going live every night of the week. How do you like it? Is becoming a human burrito a plus or a minus? I don't know. It does seem snug.
I mean, they say you are what you eat.
Kira.
I love that.
So I do a podcast called Supergirl Radio, and one of our segments is Lena Luthor, Boardroom or Ballroom. Because
she looks like a boss in this coat.
Nasty Luthor like a different Luthor? It's not just Lena being mean?
No.
Helen Slater here. So fun to know that you're hosting a podcast called Supergirl Radio.
Yes! Welcome to Supergirl Radio, your source for all things related to the character of Kara Zor-El. My name is Rebecca Johnson.
I'm Morgan Glennon.
And for this episode of the podcast, we are live and wired to recap my experience at this year's Superman celebration in Metropolis, Illinois. I usually go up for Saturdays, so I don't get to cover the entire celebration. But I do try to bring some things to share my experience, to let you all know what I saw, what I heard, what I found in the Super Museum. So there are things that we bring to the table, Q&A clips that we will have, and some fun things that we're going to be talking about. So if you didn't get a chance to go to Superman Celebration, I highly recommend that you go at least once, just so that you can have the experience. But if you never get to go, hopefully you will have the experience through Supergirl Radio and our adventures.
I feel like I've been every year, although I've been 0 years.
So that is
Supergirl Radio.
So that is my hope, that you will be so familiar with Metropolis, Illinois, that when you do get to go, you're going to be like, I feel like I've been here 100 times.
I've been to the Super Museum. So many things.
But before we get into all the fun things that I experienced in Metropolis, Illinois for Superman Celebration, we need to get to
The news.
I wasn't ready. Okay. James Gunn talked about Supergirl in a recent interview with Rolling Stone. When asked how much he was on the Supergirl set, he said, Zero. Very little. I mean,
Zero and very little are two different answers.
those are two different things, but we're gonna let him go. He said, I mean, at the very beginning, but I've been pretty busy, as you might imagine. I was really involved at the script stage, but then director Craig Gillespie has just been such a great partner. He's just been doing his thing. You never know how something cuts together, but right now it looks amazing. It's really cool stuff. James Gunn also said he thought the Supergirl movie is just now called Supergirl.
Yeah, so a lot of people were sending me this saying, Rebecca, it's just now called Supergirl. It's not called Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. And then I read the interview, and James Gunn didn't seem like real sure. Like, like
they haven't decided yet.
The way it came across, it was like question mark. I think it's just called Supergirl now.
Yeah. Well, he wasn't there, so maybe they made the decision without him.
I'm wondering, Morgan, what your thoughts are on that. If they don't call it Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow and just call it Supergirl, what are your thoughts?
I like it. I like Woman of Tomorrow. I really like that in the name. I liked it in the comic. So to me, it doesn't matter what it's called. But with that said, it should be Woman of Tomorrow. It doesn't matter, but they're wrong.
Both can be true. I think to your point, I think really the bottom line is make the movie, put it out in the screens in the theater so that we can go see it. Make sure that it's a thing that happens that I can buy a ticket for, and I can eat popcorn during. That is what I
out of it. Truly, what I'm imagining is going to be some of the stupidest popcorn buckets I've ever seen and ever dreamed of in my life, and I'm gonna buy them all. Try to stop me!
Oh my gosh, what would the popcorn bucket for Woman of Tomorrow?
We're gonna find out next year.
What if it's a Comet popcorn bucket?
Oh my god, it's like at the horse. You open up his little back and you get it out there. I've been preparing my whole life for this.
They have those Crypto the Super Dog like dog bowl popcorn buckets.
Yes.
I mean, I'm sure Comet's got some sort of like oat thing that he puts his oats in.
Maybe it's like an oat container, and then Comet's head is just like over top.
Yeah, that is a really good question. What is the Supergirl version?
If they truly made a Comet Supergirl popcorn bucket, I would have to scour the earth to find it. So maybe it's best that they don't, because in my luck, it would be like a UK exclusive or something. I'd be like, okay, pip pip cheerio, and like wheel myself into the airport.
We would move heaven and earth to get that comment.
It's so important to me.
Yeah, I understand why they're doing this. Like, they changed the Superman movie from Superman Legacy to just Superman.
Yeah.
And I thought it was funny when they announced that. It seemed to me that Warner Brothers and DC Studios were like, this is so innovative that there's never been a movie just called Superman. And I was like, oh, there was in 1978 with Christopher Reeve, so you're not the first. So I did kind of laugh about that, but
that's why the other ones tended to have subtitles, to differentiate them.
Yes.
From the first one.
So I understand why they do it. Superman is a much more recognizable brand name. It's straight and to the point.
Yeah, makes sense.
So then if you call it Superman, then I guess you have to just call it Supergirl. But then if they make a Hawk Girl movie, are they just going to call it Hawk Girl?
They'll all be single titles.
They're just the character names. Metamorpho. Okay, I guess that's exciting.
I guess I'm going to see Metamorpho today. Stop by Starbucks and then go see Hawk Girl. That's a barista reference.
That checks out.
all of my real ones, my real Hawk Girl.
Hawk Girl the movie. Let's make it happen.
So good. I hope most of the movie is just about her learning to do that like latte art. And then right at the end, she does some Hawk Girl stuff, but most of it's about the logistics of running like a small cafe.
Hear me out, Morgan.
Yeah.
What if we made Hawk Girl the barista movie like as a short film? I feel like
Beautiful.
it could be done.
I feel like it could be done. I feel like the people cry out for it.
If you write it, I'll shoot it. We can make that happen.
If we make it, they will watch it maybe.
And we might get sued for usage of
Absolutely,
IP.
we will. They'd be like, "Listen, I love the enthusiasm, but you cannot do this."
we would have to make up a new character and just make it look like Hawkgirl. Yeah, so I understand why they're doing this, why they're changing the title of it, but it is a little boring. And there already is a Supergirl movie. There's a Supergirl TV show. So when you go to IMDb and put in Supergirl, there's going to be a bunch of titles that pop up because they're all the same. So that is the confusing part of it. 5-10 years in the future, when people are like,
when you're Googling it, you'll Google Supergirl and like 5 different projects are going to come up. The 80s movie, the TV show, and now this movie. I understand. I get it. Like saying like, I'm going to see Supergirl. It's easier. It's quicker, but it doesn't have the panache of saying, I'm going to see Supergirl, ... Woman of Tomorrow. colon.
I like
a
it
good
much
subhead.
better myself.
I like a good subhead. Sue me.
Yeah, I think it would set it apart, but this is maybe, I guess, if James Gunn is correct, this is the way they are going. So I guess from henceforth, we shall refer to the movie as just Supergirl. So,
unless they change their minds again. Which is possible.
Maybe it could happen. It could happen.
Switched it a couple of times.
Or they could even switch it on the streaming side of it, like that Edge of Tomorrow movie with
yes,
that had like several different titles and it was very confusing on what to call it.
Yeah, they changed the title for that movie so many times. They were like, no, the reason it didn't do well in theaters is because of the title, and it's like, maybe you should have just marketed better. That movie slaps.
Yeah, I think that's probably the problem, is people are confused. So we have news on a possible movie title change for Supergirl. So in your conversations with people in real life and across the internet, make sure everybody is just referring to it as Supergirl, because that seems to be the thing.
I see in the chat that Stanley has made a comment that I think is so incredible and so apt for this moment. It's like when Max went back to HBO Max, like it was Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. Now it's Supergirl. Like they're just gonna they might just keep mixing it up, and we just got to be on our toes. We just got to support them as we do our good friends at HBO Max. HBO Max,
we love HBO Max.
The title is always different.
Yeah, my favorite thing about the HBO Max branding is they decided so they went from 2 companies to one
company,
and then they went back to 2, and they treated it as that was and they treated it as it was innovative. Like, we have this really new brand strategy that we're doing.
I'm gonna make a really like a reference that only you're gonna get, Rebecca. It's Button Classic. It's like in 30 Rock when Liz ends up on the microwave project and she's like, I just like the old button. They're like, oh, Button Classic. Oh boy. Oh, corporate America.
Yeah. So it's very confusing these days on what to call things, but we're trying to hang in there and make sure we call things correctly. Okay, well, that is all the news that we have for this week's episode of Supergirl Radio. So let's just get into Superman Celebration. So I went to what I believe is the 47th annual Superman Celebration. Ooh. It was held in Metropolis, Illinois during the weekend of June 13th through the 15th, 2025. And I was there. I was present on Saturday, June 14th. So I got there pretty early and I stayed for most of the day. So I had a lot of time in Metropolis. So I got more time there this year than I did last year. So that was really helpful. So I could do everything that I needed to do. And I think I accomplished most everything. I even got my Superman ice cream that then melted all over my hand, and it was a real messy situation. So next year I'm gonna get it in a bowl because I can't deal with the cone. It's too much.
Thinking,
it goes
thinking.
It goes too fast. But the first thing I want to kind of go through is we'll talk about the Superman Museum, the Super Museum, because it is such a fixture of Metropolis, Illinois, there in Superman Square. And there's always something in there that I kind of want to bring and help us understand some of the history of the character and the Superman family. So one of the things I want to first talk about, I'm going to share my screen for this one, because this past year, Jim Hambrick, who was, I guess, the founder of the Super Museum, he passed away.
Aw.
And so his daughter runs the Super Museum now. And so they revealed a new historic marker that they have put outside the Super Museum that is in honor and memory of him, which I thought was really nice. It was a very nice sign they put outside, and it says Jim Hambrick, founder of the Super Museum. On this site in 1993, Jim Hambrick opened the Super Museum, home to one of the world's largest and most comprehensive collections of Superman memorabilia. His passion for the Man of Steel transformed Metropolis, Illinois, into a global destination for Superman fans, strengthening its identity as the official home of Superman. A dedicated historian and collector, Hambrick spent decades preserving and sharing the legacy of Superman. His expertise and vast collection made the museum a must-visit attraction, drawing visitors from around the world. He also played a key role in expanding the Superman celebration, helping it grow into a major annual event it is today. In recognition of his contributions, Hambrick received numerous local honors for his work in promoting Superman's legacy and Metropolis itself. Through his lifelong dedication, he ensured that Superman's story and the values of truth, justice, and the American way would continue to inspire generations. Erected in honor of Jim Hambrick's lasting impact on the community of Metropolis, Illinois. So I thought that was really, really nice that they did that, because his collection is what you see when you go into the Super Museum. And I know that they are continuing to expand that collection by getting new things that are, coming out with the new James Gunn Superman movie. So they are continuing.
They're going to get all the popcorn buckets.
They're getting. They really need to get that, specifically that Crypto Dog Bowl.
Yes,
popcorn bucket.
That's the good one. That's my favorite of them.
If you don't get the other ones, that's fine. I think some of the other ones are a little boring or weird, but the popcorn bucket that's in the shape of a dog bowl, you have to have that one for the Super Museum. I might get that one for myself, because I think that one is very clever. But yeah, so I was really impressed, and glad to see that they did that for Jim Hambrick, because he really has helped preserve the history of Superman in some form for such a long time. And I've personally gotten value out of it, because I've learned a lot from his collection. So I was glad to see that they took the time and the money to put that up there so people could learn about him as a historic figure who made such a difference in that town and for the Superman celebration.
That's so cool that they have a plaque up for him, just because obviously I haven't been, but I feels like I have been.
Yeah.
And every time that you come back from a Superman celebration, you bring back such interesting little tidbits from the museum. You bring me back some curiosities that I can see and be like, whoa, what? I learned about super frogs and all kinds of stuff from the Super Museum. So I'm excited. I'm glad that they put up something to commemorate him.
Our favorite movie poster was in the Super Museum. You remember the one that I think we nicknamed him Jeff? That he created, like, the 1,000-word poster for Superman the movie about Superman. He was real. He's a real person.
He's like, Superman, who is real and is outside right now. You're look up to the sky. No, actually look up to the sky. Why you're still standing here staring and looking at the poster, but you should be looking up to the sky because he's real. Jeff was into it.
That poster, I would never have seen that poster anywhere else except for the Super Museum. And so
that should have been the one that they printed off mostly.
I think that one
they made a mistake by going with the other one.
We love that poster. So that's probably my favorite movie poster of all time now, just because it is so unique and special. So those are the kinds of things that we will find in the Super Museum. So I think it's really cool because I would never have discovered that anywhere else. And speaking of something that I learned this time around for my visit to the Super Museum was about this doll. There was a Superman doll in the bottom of a shelf. And I've seen it, I think, before, but I kind of passed by some things looking for other things. And for whatever reason, I decided to stop a little longer and look at it and take a picture. And then when I went to go look it up, I found out that this was actually a very important thing. Well, probably one of the more important things in the Super Museum collection, in my opinion, although I don't know everything that's in their collection. But I would imagine this is one of the cooler things that they have. So this is actually the first superhero action figure ever made. It is from 1939. Whoa. And this would have been 1 year after Superman's creation. So this first ever superhero action figure is from 1939, and it was made by a company I think called Ideal, and it's a wood jointed Superman doll. And by some accounts online, I found out that it is one of the most sought after Superman pieces ever. In 2013, it sold at an auction for $1,500. Oh. So if you have this in very good condition, you can make a lot of money with it.
So if you're like going through a basement somewhere and you see one of these bad boys, don't just toss it. Don't just give it to a local child. Sell that bad boy.
I did read. I was looking at like Reddit and things like that when I was trying to. Oh, did Bunsen join us for this
Bunsen
episode?
Did join us. He wanted to see all of the different toys, all the different things available. He can't wait. He's like, he thinks that he would have so much fun in the Super Museum. He would love to get that toy.
Well, I did see some Streaky and some Comet in the Super Museum. So I think he would be interested in that. But yeah, so I saw a Reddit thread where somebody was talking about this specific wooden doll, and somebody apparently just got it at a yard sale. Like the person who had it didn't know what it was, and so gave it to somebody for real cheap. And I think it's worth more if you have obviously the box that it came in as well.
That's always the case. I remember when I was little, sometimes my mom would give me collectible dolls and I'd be like, I can't wait to play with this. And she was like, no, you can't take it out of the box. So I would just stare at the boxes. I'd be like, they're so beautiful. And then recently I looked some of those up and they're worth nothing. So I'm not mad about it or anything, but
I heard Amy Poehler one time who said something like, I'm paraphrasing, but she said something like, live your life as if you're opening up, that box that you're opening up the doll collection.
Don't hold it for later, because I thought my Beanie Babies were going to be my retirement fund. And guess what? They are not. So
yeah. So I wish the Super Museum brought more attention to this figure, to this wooden doll, because to me, that's really historically significant.
That's crazy.
This is a thing that was created only 1 year after Superman debuted in Action Comics #1, and there's no real information on it. And so I feel like people, if they knew what the context around that wooden doll was, I think they would appreciate it more. So I found that to be highly interesting. So that was really cool to learn.
I feel like we talk about this every time you go to the Superman Museum, but it seems that the problem with the Superman Museum is a problem of plenty. They have like so much stuff, and so it could be hard to know what the background is on some of these items, but then you look them up and you're like, whoa, that's crazy.
Yeah, so I think they have some really cool old stuff that is still in decent condition. That really tells the history of the characters. So it was really cool to learn more information about that, because I guess I had never thought about that before. Like, what was the first action figure? Like, who decided?
Yeah, I've never thought about it. Yeah. Of course it would be Superman.
Yeah. And speaking of action figures, there was another item that I spotted. The picture that the live stream is seeing, my picture is on the left. The picture that I found when I was doing some research on it is on the right. So it's a much better picture than the one I took. So I wanted to put that up there. But another thing that I took a picture of was something called the Superboy action figure. And this is from 1967, and it was also manufactured by Ideal, who did the first ever superhero action figure, which was the wooden doll that we just talked about. So this company, Ideal, which I don't know much about, they were really into action figures and these figures to sell to people who were fans of Superman and Superboy. And so this was, excuse me, from 1967. And so just to give you a little history on what the premise is behind this, in 1964, there was a man named Stanley Weston who lived from 1933 to 2017, fairly long life. He went to Hasbro with the idea of an articulated doll in the form of a soldier with accessories. Hasbro took his concept and came up with G.I. Joe. Some people may know about G.I. Joe, the first modern action figure. So want to specify that the first ever superhero action figure was the wooden doll by Ideal, but G.I. Joe was the first modern action figure for boys and the first to carry the action figure moniker, which was an attempt to remove the term doll from a boy's toy.
You can't call it a doll, even though it is a doll.
and the first ever superhero action figure that we would call action figure, it's actually called a wooden doll in a lot of the descriptions that I saw of it online. So it's interesting to hear the term change. Being well schooled in the importance of licensing fan favorite properties based on television and comic characters, Stanley Weston founded his own company called American Leisure Concepts, or ALC. He was so good at licensing big names in pop culture that he would come to represent an impressive list of clients and properties, including DC Comics, Marvel Comics, and King of Features Syndicate. So, so this is just another example of an action figure that was put out by Ideal. So I thought that was interesting that the same company was doing a lot of the same stuff. So I need to do more research on Ideal because I've never heard of it before.
Interesting. I see in the chat, I saw a neat comment. No, I can't scroll up. Found it. Okay. Mind the Gap says, I think Toys That Made Us said the G.I. Joe line started calling them action figures. And I believe the Toys That Made Us is a Netflix show with like a documentary series about like popular toys. I think that, but I have not watched it.
It is
but it looks good.
It's correct. I think I watched the ones on, I think one of the first episodes, correct me if I'm wrong, Mind the Gap, was about the Ninja Turtle action figures.
Oh my God. I have to watch it. Heroes in a Half Shell, Turtle Power.
I did watch a few of those. I don't know if they talk about the Star Wars Kenner figures as well, but yeah, so there is the Toys That Made Us, and there's also like the movies that made us. That's
I want to watch the movies that made I want to watch both. Both have been on my list, but it's like it's very interesting stuff. Especially the idea of, we have to brand it as a boy's toy and we can't call it a doll because dolls are for girls, and that it makes sense that they would have come up with that for G.I. Joe.
I will say that episode about the Ninja Turtle figures was very interesting. Just the how they had to design it and how they had to package things up and like what did they need to do to represent this new brand that was coming out. So some of that is really quite interesting. So I recommend it. Well, another one of the things I saw in the Super Museum that maybe I've seen before, but I don't know. So I think this is maybe the first time I've seen this. So there was something on one of the shelves that said Siegel and Schuster Society. So I looked it up, and according to SiegelAndSchuster.com, the Siegel and Schuster Society was created in 2007 after Mike Sangiacomo at the Plain Dealer wrote a full-page column questioning why the city where Superman was created didn't celebrate its creators. It was a call to action. Within weeks, a group of dedicated business professionals, educators, media folks, members of the creators' families, and fans joined to form the Siegel and Schuster Society, an all-volunteer nonprofit organization whose mission it is to commemorate and celebrate the creation of Superman in Cleveland. And if you would like to do what I did, you can sign up for a membership on their website, which I believe is free. You can sign up to. I think what happens is you sign up for an email newsletter, and I think that's the membership. And if you do that, you can get a membership card in the mail. So I look forward to getting my membership card to the Siegel and Schuster Society. The email newsletter will also help you stay up to date with the Siegel and Schuster Superman Plaza project that they are doing. So they're trying to build this plaza to help remember Siegel and Schuster in Cleveland. So I thought that was pretty cool. If I hadn't seen this in the Superman Museum or the Super Museum, I would not have known that the Siegel and Schuster Society existed.
Would not have become a card-carrying member of the Siegel and Schuster Society, which I'm going to join as well.
I feel like we should. I mean, Supergirl Radio should be members of the Siegel and Schuster Society.
Clearly. Like, we should be on the in crowd.
If not for the creation of Superman, there would be no Supergirl.
There would be no Supergirl. And what a sad life that would be.
That would be sad.
I see Brian makes a comment that there were Ninja Turtles at Celebration.
This is true.
We're just going around in a circle. It's all connecting. You might think that's a tangent. No, it's not.
They did. I did not see them personally, but I believe they were at the Hidden Gems part of Superman Celebration, which is kind of there's a section that's next to the Super Museum that's like comic stuff, people selling toys and comics and things. I went in there, I bought one comic and I left because I knew if I stayed in there for too long, I would spend more money. And I was like, nope, I gotta go. Got my one comic.
Stay strong.
Because if I stay in there too long, I will be spending money. But I think the Ninja Turtles were there. I think they also got their picture made with Superman in front of the Superman statue. So
that's incredible.
it seemed like the Ninja Turtles had a real fun time. I hope they got some pizza later, but they seem to enjoy themselves. Okay, so another thing that I thought was pretty interesting that I wanted to talk about were these wallets that I saw on one of the shelves. And these are the Superman Hidecraft leather wallets. From the information I could find online, these wallets are from the 1940s. Not sure if it's beginning in the 1940s, mid-1940s, late 1940s, sometime in the 1940s. The insides of these wallets have snap closure coin compartments and windows to display your ID. There were other Superman wallets designed by this company. So there are a couple of designs here. Even at the Super Museum, they had two different versions of the design of Superman flying or landing. But it's made by the same company. And so they had, I think, two on display that I could see. So it's really cool to see that in the 1940s, Superman was, going strong in the merchandising. They were finding different ways to slap him on different things. It wasn't just wooden figures. It was, hey, put him on a wallet, keep him in your pocket so that you'll see him all the time. So I think it's really cool. And they're action poses. And they're still kind of in the 1940s trying to work out his font, trying to work out what the Superman logo should look like. So I always think that's really interesting. I wish I could do a project where the
evolution of the font.
I mean, maybe somebody's already done it, but to see it from the beginning of Action Comics number 1 through today, just to see how it changes and when does it change? Why does it change? When were they happy with it?
Oh yeah, it's really funny because it's such an iconic font too that it's funny to see the earlier ones that just kind of look like a regular font, like it's like a Times New Roman. It's just like Superman. And you're like, oh, okay,
not as exciting, but okay, it's fine.
Not putting any pomp and circumstance on that. That's I guess fine.
But yeah, so some wallets were made in the 1940s that you could put your money in and take with you. The other thing, the last thing I wanted to show everybody, because I thought it was kind of interesting, is that they created, I think this is from 1966. This is a Superman eating set. And from the information I could find online, this eating set was manufactured by the Imperial Knife Company Incorporated. And they not only had a Superman set, they had like a Green Hornet set and a Batman set. So this is a fork and a spoon that had Superman designs on the handles. And so I don't know why they didn't give you a knife. Don't you need a knife? I mean, I feel like that would really
should have a knife, but
really complete it. But what I thought was really interesting about this is the picture on the left is the picture I took at the Super Museum. The picture on the right is a picture that I found online. And so you can see that obviously if something is very old and maybe it doesn't get kept in correct temperature settings or something like that, it can deteriorate and the colors do change. So it's interesting to see like what it would have looked like in the time when it was released. But I just think it's so interesting that that they don't give you a knife in this set. So, but it looks like it was only maybe 79 cents.
That's what it looks like. 79 cents. It's a safe and sanitary. That's important to know.
Yeah, it's very important. So stainless safe and sanitary, I think, or is that what it says?
Yeah, I think
Stainless?
so.
Yeah.
I think at the top it says top quality.
Good.
So yeah, you're only eating with the finest Superman silverware.
Yes.
I mean, maybe saying silverware is a bit much. It says stainless, but it doesn't say anything about steel. It just says stainless. It doesn't say silver. It doesn't say. It's like, don't worry, it won't stain though.
But if you're a big Superman fan, you could eat with a Superman design on your spoon and your fork.
You're like, what's this made out of? It's sanitary. It's safe. You're answering questions I'm not asking.
So you could eat with that if you so wanted to. And I thought it was interesting. They also had a Green Hornet one.
Yeah.
Green Hornet, I guess was popular back in the day, but nowadays a lot of people don't know who Green Hornet is.
Yeah, you don't hear much about Green Hornet.
Bring him back. Why don't we have a Green Hornet TV show? I would watch a Green Hornet TV.
What's he up to?
What's he doing these days? So yeah, there is that. Well, those are kind of the notable things I spotted in the Super Museum this year that I wanted to bring and show everybody. And so there were some other things that I just happened to see while I was out and about in Metropolis. I did go to Fat Ed's Roadhouse and I got a kryptonite drink. This time, though, they had a new kryptonite drink. It was no longer just green kryptonite. It was red kryptonite that they were offering. So I did get to drink some red kryptonite, and hopefully my head, I didn't grow two heads or turn into a mermaid, because that's what would happen to you if you were drinking red kryptonite in the Silver Age of Superman and Supergirl. And so the red kryptonite, I got it as non-alcoholic. You can get it alcoholic if you would like, if you want to have a little alcohol in there, you can do that. But for me, I think the alcohol personally ruins the drink. So I got it removed, and I thought the drink it was a fruity drink. And so I recommend going to Fat Ed's Roadhouse. They have some good barbecue and some good things to eat there, and you can get fun themed drinks there. So I thought it was interesting that Fat Ed's was trying new things with maybe they got bored with just their green kryptonite, and so they've developed this red kryptonite drink now. So if you're ever in the area, Fat Ed's Roadhouse is just down from the Superman Square. So it's just kind of a little bit of a walk down there. So you can walk from the Super Museum or the Superman statue down to Fat Ed's Roadhouse and get you some kryptonite. So highly recommend it. So trying new things, drinking new things. So it's all good. Morgan, is your
My
camera okay?
camera looks like it's not.
It's coming. It's coming back.
I got paler, or here we go. Okay, where
I actually kind of liked it. It looked like
Ooh.
a film look.
I
Like
know,
an old nostalgic.
No, I did that on purpose. I didn't need to keep one cat from beating the crap out of the other cat.
Oh no!
Bunsen was on top of Beaker, holding him down, just like slapping him. Like, I'm not hitting you, you're hitting yourself.
Stop hitting yourself.
I had to pick him up and move him off, and now he's just walking around crying because he's mad.
Is that not how they play?
It is, but Beaker was screaming. It didn't seem like he was enjoying it.
Bunsen is not going to take it anymore.
Bunsen's like, I'm sick of it. Bunsen was fully snapping, so I had to break them apart.
Understood. Well, I think that's okay. Well, I'm glad that worked itself out. And the other thing that I spotted in my day in Metropolis, kind of walking down from the Superman statue down to what they call the Smallville tent. There's some vendors that sell things in the street. And one of the things I spotted, I was like, I've got to show this to Morgan because it's hilarious and she will never believe that this is a thing that was being sold in Superman Celebration. Do you remember this old friend?
No way. No way. No, not the Batman who laughs. I have like trauma.
So I think this was a Batman Who Laughs mask. And I don't know if you can see the price, but it was being sold for $265. Would you buy, Morgan, would you buy a Batman Who Laughs mask for $265?
No, I'm not paying somebody $265 to have nightmares. I can do that for free.
But I thought that was funny that at the Superman celebration, our old friend, the Batman Who Laughs from the Supergirl Rebirth era, we spent a lot of time with this guy, so it was funny to see him there.
Now I want to see somebody cosplaying as infected Supergirl.
Oh, yes. Could you imagine? With the fingernails,
and
like this, the kiss makeup and the suit, like
that would be amazing.
Oh, that would actually be a really deep cut at a convention to have.
That would be.
You're
like, if you know, you know. And if you know, I'm sorry. I guess you read these too.
Bonus points if you can have retractable nails. Like long fingernails.
Oh my God. You're like, do some hand acting.
Sometimes she has nails, sometimes she doesn't. Just
That's true. Sometimes they're long, sometimes they're short. Who knows? She's a woman of mystery.
So those are kind of the things that I saw and experienced while I was there. And so now I'm going to guide everybody through the Q&A panels that I went to. I went to two. So two of the big celebrity guests this year were Odette Annable, Dean Cain, and Anais Fairweather, who voiced Supergirl on DC Superhero Girl. So unfortunately, because they had scheduled the Anais Fairweather Q&A at the same time as the Dean Cain Q&A, I don't have recording of the Dean Cain Q&A. But you know, I've seen Dean Cain before. I've done that, so you can probably find the Dean Cain Q&A somewhere else. But for Supergirl, I wanted to focus, even though Dean Cain was on the Supergirl TV series as Jeremiah Danvers, I wanted to focus on specifically the Supergirl people, and I could not be in two places at once, so I did have to make a choice. So I went to the Odette Annable Q&A and the Anais Fairweather Q&A, and so I wanted to talk first about the Anais Fairweather Q&A and some of the things that she was talking about. And if you have listened to Supergirl Radio for any length of time, we have talked about the DC Superhero Girl take on Supergirl. And I will confess, and you will hear me talk on Supergirl Radio in the past of how, you know, I didn't love Anais's Supergirl voice the first time that I heard it. My first reaction was like, I don't know if this is right for that design of the character. It seems like it's not connected to the actual design, because in my head, the design for the character was much younger. And so her voice made her sound older. And so there was like a disconnect in my head. But of course, over time, as a lot of things happen with me, over time, I got used to it and started to like her portrayal of the character, because she was always very excited. And she seemed to do a lot with the emotion of the character. And so over time, Anais did win me over on DC Superhero Girls the more that I watched it. And part of it was because of her voice, her raspy voice, that she does acknowledge that she's had for a very long time. This is not a new thing for Annie. She's very self-aware about her raspy voice. And that was something that she talked about in her Q&A, and that she actually now embraces as something that makes her stand out.
Growing up, I was always teased for my voice. I always had this sort of deep, hoarse, raspy voice, even as a kid. And I always secretly wanted to be an actor, but because my brother particularly, and all my crushes, every boy I liked, would make fun of my voice, I thought, well, I can't do that, because to be an actor, you have to use your voice and be on camera and be on stage. So I went into journalism, and I thought that that's what I was going to do. And then I realized I did not want to do that. The newsroom is a very difficult place. Hollywood has been a breeze in comparison. And so one day I just finally confessed to my mom that this is what I wanted to do. And she said, go, do it. I mean, she didn't even flinch. I mean, she had just spent all this money for me to go to college for 4 years. And I was pivoting. And it was the most important moment of my life that she just immediately supported me. And so from there I went and I studied acting, and I went to the South Coast Repertory Theater, which was near my house, and I took classes. And that is something that I really believe in, is if you want to do something, learn about it. Learn about it, learn about it, learn about it, study it, educate yourself, because there's no power like education and like information. So this is a long story for a small, well, it's not a small question. So I started taking classes, and then I got introduced to the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater in Los Angeles, which is a comedy theater just like Groundlings and Second City. It's where a lot of people from SNL come from, and any comedy writers for any television show or late night show, they all come from these comedy theaters. And so I started there, was performing, started writing, and in that time I was seeking representation, and agents came out and they wanted to sign and work with me. And I've been with the same one for voiceover and commercial work for, probably 15 years. And so then they just started saying, we're going to start sending you out for voiceover. And I was like, really? Because again, I thought I was, the first thing that I ever booked of a short film, they said there was a stack of headshots, and they said, we chose you because of your voice. And I was like, what? I thought I was gonna have to hide this. And so I think for young people today to really understand that a lot of times the thing that you get made fun of for, or the thing that you feel like you have to hide about yourself because it stands out too much, is usually always the thing that makes you special and the thing that you should be embracing. I've said, you can't, literally anyone in LA who's in this industry will agree with that statement. They've said it before, and it's just, that's really what I hope anybody ever hears, is really what makes you unique and special is the thing sometimes you're trying to hide.
So I thought that was very nice that she passed that advice along to other people if they are also somebody who has voice acting aspirations or acting aspirations, or anything that you want to do, is embrace the thing that makes you different and stands and makes you stand out, and cultivate that. So I thought that was a good life lesson that she
Good advice.
along. Yeah, and so she also Annie's taught, if you're into voice acting and learning about voice acting, the full panel will be great for you, because her Q&A was so delightful. She is actually a very delightful person, and so we'll have her full Q&A up on the DCTV podcast YouTube channel and the Supergirl Radio podcast feed. But for here, I just wanted to pull clips that pertain to her Supergirl experience. So she did talk about voice acting, and I was also very impressed with the fact that she had full command of that microphone. When you watch the full Q&A, watch how she maneuvers the mic. She knows exactly where to, because some people don't know how to talk into a microphone.
I was going to say that the sound on this sounds so much better than the panels that you usually bring back from Celebration. And I feel like that's why.
Yeah, I think it is. I think she definitely knows how to work her way around a microphone, because some people, like, they hold it too low or they don't talk. A directional mic has to be directionally in front of your mouth to talk. So some people don't know how to do that, but you can see her like adjusting in her chair as she's sort of maneuvering around the microphone. So it's really interesting to watch the full thing. But for here, the next clip that we're going to talk about is she discussed what made her connected to the character of Supergirl during her audition.
With Supergirl, what connected me so deeply to her was in the audition. I mean, you get a page, again, you get like 100 words. And in 100 words, you have to give, and it's not even, probably less than 100 words, lend your authentic self to the character. And in the dialogue, she was saying goodbye to her parents. And they didn't know, they were sending her to Earth to protect her because they knew things weren't going to be great for them. And saying goodbye to your parents, I mean, it's like, you can't help but well up, and it's times like that when you get writing for animation that is like, this is a true human experience, and I get to do that. That is such a gift, because it's so often we watch animation because it's light and fun and creative, and we can be like kids eating cereal watching it. But to have an animation that was truthful was really wonderful. And then, getting to do Jemica, she was coined as the coolest girl in the universe. And I was like, yeah, got it. Perfect. And that was super fun. And then she ended up turning into the most powerful woman in the universe, which was, how cool. So cool.
Yeah, so it should be pointed out that she is also a big voice on the Powerpuff Girls. So if
I did not know that.
Yeah, if you do like the Powerpuff Girls, she did play Jemica on there. So she talked a little bit about the Powerpuff Girls as well. So it was neat to hear her talk about, kind of what drew her to the character during the audition of, just that backstory that I think is so strong with Supergirl. So that was really cool to hear. And she also talked a little bit more about her Supergirl audition and how she had one take really to do her Supergirl audition. And even though you would think that, maybe you'd want to go back and re-record it and try again, only having one take, that's one shot. But she actually talked about how it was actually pretty beneficial that she didn't have to think about it more and just kind of played into the moment.
I only auditioned for Supergirl because they were only looking for that voice, Warner Brothers. And it was one of my first auditions, which is so weird. I was not expecting anything to come of it. It was one take in the recording booth. That's the one thing from recording from home is you have so much time and space to overthink everything. You're like, that didn't sound quite right. I should re-record it. And when you re-record sometimes, you lose the moment, the spontaneity. And I think so much magic happens in the spontaneity of life.
Yeah, so the one take seemed to work for her because she booked the
clearly.
gig. And she also discussed about the concept of DC superhero girls and what she liked about it, because it is a little bit different than what we've seen Supergirl be put in previous incarnations. And so she talked about what she loved about the concept of the series of, oh my gosh, DC Superhero Girls was not only, shorts and a TV show, it was books and comic books.
Oh,
and,
yeah. Like a
and
whole
dolls. So it was a whole brand that came out. So this is her talking about what she liked about DC Superhero Girls.
What was so exciting about this specific one was it was really the first time that DC Superhero Girls had a platform. And it was the whole it was all of the girls. And what was so wonderful about doing that, it was that they wanted they wanted the human experience. You know, these girls were going through puberty and they were in high school and they were nervous, but they were the girls who were really confident, who had been there before. And Supergirl specifically had just arrived and was feeling insecure and needed to find her community, and she needed to find power and friendship. And I think what was so beautiful specifically about DC Superhero Girls was that that really was at the forefront of the writing and the animation, and the experience was, let's not only empower young girls to see themselves animated in a comic book universe, but also let's give the heart of what it feels like to be a young girl coming of age. And I think that they really did such a great job in the storytelling and the animation altogether, and the way that they looked like young girls. You know, it felt natural and real, which I really appreciated.
And I should mention that I also got a chance to meet Annie's Fairweather and
Ooh.
get my picture made with her. And one of the things that I always want to, anybody who's associated with Supergirl that I get to meet, I always want to thank them for their contribution to the mythos of Supergirl, because now she has added a new wrinkle into the character in terms of the teenage version of Kara and what the DC Superhero Girls brand did with the character. And so I always like to thank people for that. And it seemed like she would have talked to me for an hour.
That's so cool.
She was so nice. And so I did thank her for the contribution she has made to the Supergirl character. And like that clip, she was very excited to have been a part of something that really was for young girls specifically. And I told her, and I think we've talked about this on the podcast before, but before DC Superheroes came out, I remember there being, it's in one of our early Supergirl Radio episodes, I think with Teresa. So it was a long time ago. And we read a letter that a young girl had written DC Comics wanting more stuff for girls, for young girls. And not too far out from that, not too much later from that letter, DC Supergirl Girls showed up on the scene. And so I had mentioned that letter to Anais, that I remember that happening in the news. And I think she was touched by that. And so I think it's really cool that she represents a different kind of Supergirl. She's animated. She's representing teenage girls and young girls. And so I think she takes that. It seems like she takes it very seriously, and she's very proud of it. And I think she should be. I think she did a lot. That DC Superhero Girls brand still exists as far as I know, and they're still kicking, and they've done a lot with that brand. So I think they've added something that was missing in the market for that. So I thought she was really cool. And so if you haven't, go follow her on social media and check out some of her other stuff that she's been a part of. Watch the Powerpuff Girls if you haven't already, to hear her voice there as well. So I really enjoyed getting to hear from Anais Fairweather. So definitely check out the full Q&A when we put it out. And the last thing that we'll talk about with Superman Celebration is Odette Annable, who played Rain on the Supergirl TV series. I also got a chance to meet her. She was super nice. Like Anais, I thanked her for her contribution to the Supergirl mythos. And one of the things that I wanted to tell her that that I thought was kind of unique to me was that I had mentioned that when I was at work, the day after the season 3 Rain episode happened, where Supergirl and Rain have their big fight during the Christmas episode, and Rain just beats the crap out of Supergirl. I mean, Supergirl just goes down. The next day at my work, people knew I was a Supergirl fan, that I did a podcast about the show. And so I had a coworker come up to me who never talked to me about the show ever before that, said, "Did you see that episode of Supergirl last night?" And I was like, "Yeah." And it was the only water cooler moment I ever had about the Supergirl TV series was after that Rain episode.
That was a good cliffhanger too. I remember that break.
Such a good episode. And so Odette was very nice. She probably says this to everybody, but she said that made my day. Thank you for telling me that. So she was super nice, and I actually, while I chatted with her, I got a chance to ask her about the rain suit, which we'll talk about with some of these clips, because she really liked the rain suit. You'll hear her talk about that. But I asked her, because this was after the Q&A, and I didn't get a chance to ask her about this, but until I actually got my picture made with her, and I asked her, what was the inspiration behind the mask, the rain mask? Like, who did you have input on the mask? And she said, no, not on the design, but on the makeup underneath the mask. So that was kind of her contribution to the rain look, which I think is actually quite important to those masks. Like Batman has to have that little black eye stuff that under his cowl to make his cowl look really scary. So
really
I think
brings it together.
Yeah. So I think Odette really understood the eye makeup under the mask was really important. So she did say that she contributed a lot. Her input was on the makeup there. And she also mentioned, I joked around because she said she hadn't been to the Super Museum. And I was like, well, you got to go to the Super Museum. There's a whole Supergirl section. And I joked that, oh, you'll see Melissa while you're in there, because they have a stand-up of Supergirl. And she said, well, actually, I'm still in touch with Melissa. She talked about how she had just spoken to Melissa about her new Netflix series.
Oh, yeah.
So it sounds like they keep in touch, which is nice to hear. And so it was nice to kind of have those sort of normal human conversations. I don't know why. I think sometimes like a celebrity wouldn't tell me that. Like, oh, yeah, I've talked to Melissa Benoist the other day. I was like, okay, that's cool. Tell her I said hello next time you say anything to her. But she was very, very nice. And she really seemed to enjoy her time in Metropolis and getting to talk about all of her roles and her experience as an actress. So she did a great job during the Q&A, because as we go through these clips, you'll hear that at one point, the sky opened up and it started raining, and it made it very difficult. People were joking that it rained on rain.
Good one.
But she was a real trooper to hang in there despite all that, because it did make it a little more chaotic when things were kind of chaos underneath that tent. But we'll get to that when we get to it. So one of the things that I learned about Odette that I didn't know was kind of her acting origin story. I didn't know how she got started and what led up to her time as Rain on Supergirl. So it was really neat to hear her acting origin story.
Well, I started acting when I was 4 years old in a small little movie called Kindergarten Cop. I was actually just learning English at the time. I spoke Spanish. My family is Cuban, and so I learned to speak Spanish first. And when I was very introverted as a child, and my parents, they met a family member that was into commercials, so they got me an agent when I was 4 years old. I was like, let me grow a personality. But it really did get me out of my shell, and when I was on set, I felt the movie magic, and that really fascinated me, and it kind of sparked something inside of me, a little passion, and I kept doing it because I'm still so blown away by showing up on set and seeing how many people it takes to make something work. Every single part is intricate, and I'm just, happen to be in front of the camera, but so much goes on behind the camera, and so I'm really interested in continuing to create and produce. And I don't know if directing is necessarily my calling, but I'm really kind of open-minded into learning about every aspect of the business, because it really is quite magical.
Yeah, Kenny in the chat says the first role I saw of Odette is as the young girl in Kindergarten Cop. I totally did not know that she had been in Kindergarten
I didn't
Cop.
know was in that Academy Award-winning film as well.
It is such a good
I love
movie.
that
So
movie.
I love Kindergarten Cop, and so now I'm gonna have to go back and watch it.
Now I have a
just
reason
for
to go back
Odette.
and watch Kindergarten Cop and be like, no, I'm like looking for little Odette. It's not just because it's a heartwarming film.
With a good there's tension at the end of the movie. There's real are they gonna make it kind of thing.
There's some action in
There's a
there.
lot of it's an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, so it's got to have some action.
We gotta.
So now that we've gotten through Odette's origin story, she talked a little bit about how she creates a character, which I think is really interesting because every actor does it a little differently. So this is how Odette starts to create a character.
I start from a feeling after I read the script. And whatever feeling that is evokes the first part of the process of creating a character. And I always bring in a little bit of me and who I am to the character, because that's when my own adaptation of however I see this is going to work the best, in my opinion. I always have to stay in my lane and understand that my performance is my own, and what I can bring will always be infused with a little part of me. And then I really try to understand where the character is coming from, even though it may not be my experience. Sometimes I bring in little bits of other characters just because I know what it looks like on screen. And then sometimes I watch other performances that feel similar and create a mood board and really, like, what they say, like, steal from some of the greats and emulate, what really wonderful actors are doing. I'm not above that. I love watching actors. I love following them, and I love knowing their creative process, and it helps mine as well.
I like the idea that she starts out from an emotion, from a feeling, because I started to think about the Rain character, like her feeling of Rain would be different from her feeling of Samantha Arias. So I wish I had more time to like explore that with her. Like, so how did you separate the feelings for those, or did you approach it as one feeling?
Yeah, I wonder if she did any kind of like, this is what I'm going to be doing, approaching this kind of, feeling here, and this is when I'm going to be doing that. Like, I think that's really interesting that how she sort of backs into the material.
Yeah, so she continued to talk about how she approached the character of Rain and Sam, and specifically about the dual identity that she had to play. Not only, Supergirl's got a dual identity, but she's not the only one on that show. Actually, a lot of those characters ended up having dual identities.
Arguably, almost everyone.
All of them became superheroes by the end. But Rain had a dual identity, much like Supergirl did. And so this is how Odette approached that concept.
When I first read the script, it felt a little daunting to me, just because the dual identity and, really kind of carving out those arcs and understanding both characters with their differences, because they're both so different. I really had to lean into, Sam's character, which, the human character, and, being a single mother and understanding her struggles in that way, and then really justifying the way that Rain thought, and knowing that she was coming into, with her own identity and, her own justifications for, being a world killer, and trying to bring humanity to her as well, and understand her. And I just loved playing her. I loved to be bad. I mean, it was really the most fun, and just putting that costume on and feeling powerful and understanding that, playing two different characters in that way was challenging, but it was one of the best challenges that I've ever had in my career. I felt very lucky.
Yeah, having to follow the arcs of her characters, plural,
Yeah, both of them.
would have been probably pretty difficult because at some point, Sam finds out that Rain is a part of her, and so then it gets really complicated at that point.
She knows that I know that she knows.
So I imagine that she had to really, really think through some of that stuff. And if you are somebody who is wondering whether or not Odette was familiar with the Superman mythos before taking on the character of Rain, like I was, somebody did ask her about that, and so that this is what she said.
Were you aware of the Superman mythos? Were you a comic book person before coming across the Supergirl?
I was not, and that was a point of contention for my husband's family because they are massive Superman fans. So I kind of had to learn, do my research, and so I had a little under my belt when I signed on to do Supergirl, but not that much. And of course, as time went on and as I was really loving the character and the whole world, I learned a little more about it. But really Rain was such her own adaptation, and I was really lucky enough to bring in some of my own experiences and bring it into the character, and I think it was well received and it really worked.
I can only imagine for somebody who has almost no knowledge of like Supergirl or Superman or the world of DC Comics, having to jump into that. I can imagine being a little overwhelming.
Yeah, that feels like it would be over. It's like, okay, you're two characters. One of them is a world killer.
One of them has some friends who are also world killers, and one of them really likes being a world killer.
Yeah, you don't. Your other self doesn't. Both sides of that girl do.
And you've been hanging around. You were created by witches from Krypton.
Of course, you were created by Kryptonese witches.
So that was probably a real steep learning curve, I think she had to go through. So good on Odette for just jumping in there. Okay, so at some point, this is kind of where the sky really opened up, and the rain really was raining very hard. Even under, this is all happening under a tent, a big tent outside. So you are underneath the elements. So some of the rain was so hard, it was kind of coming in sideways underneath the tent. I got a little nervous about my phone getting wet, but so that's how really hard it was coming down. So Odette was really a trooper for continuing on. She recognized that it was raining and had concern for the people who were trying to get underneath the tent because it was coming down so badly, but she was still trying to answer fan questions even though it got really loud because the rain was making it hard to hear, but she really kind of persevered just to continue to answer fan questions. And I really appreciated that about what she did during this Q&A. So this is a clip of her talking about her favorite scene that she shot on Supergirl.
Wow, it's really coming down now. I live in Texas now, so I'm used to the thunder. Yeah, Texans. My favorite scene that I shot on Supergirl was that very first scene where I got to wear the suit and I was on that rooftop with Melissa Benoist. It felt very surreal. I was so proud that I'd come so far in my career that I was able to really work on something that I was proud of and work alongside an actress that I admired and being on a show that has such great fans and such a wonderful following. It felt, I just kept pinching myself because, oh my gosh, you guys, this is wild. Get in here, look at those, they're getting drenched. But yeah, so that was really it for me. I really felt like that inner child that worked so hard to make it as an actress. I felt like in that moment I had made it.
Yeah, so that you can even hear
rain is in the rain from the sky. It's very loud. It's crazy.
Very loud. It got a little difficult to hear because I think people also were like trying to get underneath the tent, and so they were talking to other people to try to get them to like let them in, and so it got a little noisy in there. But that was cool to hear that not only probably a lot of us as Supergirl fans, I don't want to speak for everybody. Maybe I should just speak for myself, that one of my favorite sequences is that sequence where Supergirl and Rain kind of meet at the top of that rooftop, and they,
So cool.
Supergirl asks, are you the devil? That scene. That's a really great scene. Even before the fight, like that's a good scene. And so it's neat. It's neat to hear that is also something that she was really proud of for doing. Okay, so speaking of Rain and the suit, Odette really seemed to love the rain suit and getting to wear the rain
It's
suit.
a cool suit.
And she spoke about the functionality of it and the look of it, because it is different from what Rain wears in the comic books. So it is a different look. So she talked a little bit about that, as well as what it was like to work with Kevin Smith as a director, because that was something that someone asked her to talk about. So this is her answer to those two things.
I wanted to keep that suit so bad. Oh, when my time was up at Supergirl, I said, can I just keep the suit? They said no. I said, what about the cape? They said no. So that suit is locked up in a warehouse wherever all of the other suits go, maybe to museums or somewhere. But if I could steal it still, I probably would. I love it so much. I thought they did such a fantastic job designing it, and really it was such a great way to do it. Because we shot in Vancouver, and it was very, very cold, and the comic book character didn't wear as much clothing, but I think we still kept it sexy and classy and really awesome. Working with Kevin Smith was a dream. He's everything that you want him to be or think that he could be, and even more. He showed up every single day with donuts for the crew. He brought a smile to everybody's face. He was so energetic. I don't know how he is capable of doing it all, but he does it with grace and humility and joy and laughter, and he's really talented, and I hope to work with him again soon.
So like Melissa's transition from the skirt as Supergirl to pants, it sounds like the rain suit always had to be different, because it could not be worn in a cold environment if it was exactly like the one in the comics. So they had to make
that
something
makes
that was
sense.
Vancouver appropriate. So that is why those suits were so different. And I'm glad she had a great experience with Kevin Smith. Everybody in the Arrowverse seemed to enjoy working with him. So I'm glad to hear that as well. And so the last bit of, we've got two more clips where she talks about the ability to play Rain. And she, let's see, I have two, and I can't remember, and now I don't remember what my notes should say, but I have another clip of her playing Rain. So we'll just listen to it and see what she says, and we'll respond to it.
My favorite part about playing Rain was that she gave me this confidence that I didn't have before. I really found ways to love her so fully, and it ended up where I loved myself even more fully. I felt such a connection to the character. I loved being a part of the world. I loved putting the suit on, and it gave me so much confidence, and she was just a pleasure to play. And the duality of playing both of those characters at the same time, it was creatively so fulfilling for me, and one of the highlights of my career.
And I don't want to speak for you, Morgan, but Rain was, in my opinion, the best villain on the show. And so I think she did a great job.
I think they had some great villains on the show, but none of them were as good as Rain. Rain was scary. Rain was like, uh-oh, how are they going to defeat Rain? Is somebody going to die? It felt like everybody could die. Somebody was definitely going to die. So I think that the stakes that season felt very high, and that was because Rain was such a good villain.
Yeah, the stakes were definitely high, and she was a real threat. She killed Livewire. She was really giving everybody a hard time, and so that was like the the peak Supergirl villain, in my opinion, was in season 3. So, and I was always glad that they brought her back in later seasons to kind of bring Samantha back, even though Rain was gone. And one of the things that is so good about Rain is that she gave Supergirl a real run for her money in terms of the fighting and the physical combativeness that they went through in season 3. And so Odette did talk about the fight choreography on Supergirl and how that's a little bit different than some other things. And so this was something that I also learned as well that I didn't know before. So this is her discussing what's different about the Arrowverse approach to fight choreography.
I had done a little fight training before. I did a TV show called Banshee, and I played this, really cool character, and I'd done some choreography before, and I really prepared for that. It was like a month of preparing and rehearsing and being in a gym before we even shot the film. Supergirl was really different in the way that you kind of just did it on the fly. I would learn fight scenes. Melissa and I would sit down and we would learn these fight scenes, even on the day, which is so wild to think about because they look so elaborate and the production quality is so incredible, but we really had to, use our time wisely and really just be a team in that way, because you can get hurt. And if you're not careful, and you just really have to trust your stunt coordinators, and they obviously know what they're doing. But Melissa and I really were partners from the very beginning, and she was nobody got hurt. So thank God for that.
That is crazy to think about, because if you go back and watch the Supergirl Rain fight in that Rain episode, that fight goes on forever.
It really does.
It is a long fight, and to hear that they had to just kind of learn that on the fly, that's crazy. That's crazy. So good on Odette and Melissa for being able to do that so quickly. I would not have been able to do that. A lot of people compare fight choreography to dance choreography.
I can do neither.
I'm not a dancer, so I couldn't do it. So, but they made it look really good and believable. So that's kind of interesting. Now I'll probably think about that the next time I watch some of those fight scenes, about how quickly that they do that. The last clip I have from Odette's Q&A, and again, we'll have the full Q&A up on the DCTV podcast YouTube channel and the Supergirl Radio podcast, the audio podcast feed. But these are just some clips that I pulled for this recap of Superman Celebration. But the last one I wanted to share of her is that something that I didn't know about Odette is that she and her husband are or were, I don't know if they still are, but they were ambassadors for the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation, which DCTV Podcast has actually worked with before. We did a charity to raise money, a charity fundraiser to raise money for the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation. So it's neat to hear that even before she was playing Rain on Supergirl, that she was involved with the Reeve Foundation. So this is her talking about that experience.
My husband and I, we've been fortunate enough to be ambassadors for the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation and learn more about what they do. And we went to New Jersey and we got to just see all of the advancements that they have had. And a buddy of ours, he actually broke his C1 in a shallow diving incident, and he was one of the fortunate ones. But really just going in and seeing the work that they do and their dedication is really truly unmatched. And we were able to meet Will and some of the family, and just that connection that I felt just walking into those doors and seeing the work that they do and all of their supporters. It's just really unbelievable.
That's awesome. It's awesome to be a part of it.
Yeah. And this was before I was ever a part of the Superman world. So it all feels very kismet.
So that's very cool that she was a part of that and was an ambassador for such a great foundation, such as the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation. So if you are interested in that foundation, you can go check out their website. They're doing some really cool research in those fields. So, and I think making a lot of progress from some of the things I've seen just even like a few years ago. So it's neat to see what they're continuing to work on with that organization. So I'm glad that Odette and her husband were able to be part of that. That's very cool.
That's really cool.
So I think that's really going to do it for my Superman celebration in 2025. I didn't get a chance to do much in the way of like fan interviews because it was kind of rainy and gross. And so a lot of the time I was trying to get in line for these photo ops, because I didn't have like that special sponsorship autograph pass thing. I just kind of got at the
A
end
super special pass.
I just got at the end of the line and I was able to get in there. But I did see Dean Cain as he posed in front of the Superman statue, as all the celebrities do. They will pose in front of the Superman statue and then they will go and do their Q&A, or vice versa. And the one thing I will say about Dean Cain, I was a little disappointed. He wore a Deadpool t-shirt to a Superman celebration. I was like, "Wait, what are you doing, Dean?
That's the wrong character, sir.
What are you doing here? What is this? I'm sure you have a Superman shirt laying around somewhere."
Remember when you played him?
Remember when you were Superman?
Yeah.
But he seemed to be having fun having his picture made in front of the Superman statue. He was an old pro. He's been to Superman celebration,
I'm sure.
several times. And so he was chatting it up with everybody, taking his picture. So everybody seemed to be having a good time. And I did ask Anais Fairweather if she had met Dean Cain before, because on DC Superhero Girls, Dean Cain plays Jeremiah Danvers for her Supergirl, for her Kara. So essentially, Dean Cain, her fictional father, was at the same Superman celebration. And so I asked her if she had ever met him before, and she said no, but that she was hoping to meet him while they were there. So I thought that was really funny, because, you know, a lot of times, and this is something that Anais talks about in her Q&A, that a lot of times the voice actors don't record together. A lot of times.
I have heard that. Yeah, they're in like the booth all by themselves a lot of the time.
Every now and then they may do a special thing where they record together, but obviously she had never met Dean Cain because they hadn't recorded together. But that's one of the things that's really cool about DC Superhero Girls, is that the Jeremiah and Eliza are played by Dean Cain and Helen Slater, just like they are on the Supergirl TV show. So that is going to do it for my Superman celebration recap. Despite the rainy weather, had a good time, did a lot of things, saw some people, learned a lot of fun facts about these actors who have contributed so much to the Supergirl and Superman mythology. So a good time was had by all. And so now I look forward to Superman celebration in 2026. And that'll be a big one, because that'll be during the summer of Supergirl.
Summer of Supergirl, baby.
Because we know that's coming. That's definitely gonna happen.
On its way.
DC Comics is definitely gonna have a.
They're gonna blow out all the stops. Everybody knows that.
So next Superman celebration, I hope, is all about Supergirl, as it should be. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Supergirl Radio. Oh, do we have
a couple questions?
Okay.
Surface from the chat.
Before we wrap up,
I see Brian has a question about your background. Brian wants to know, is there something secretive about the key in your background?
Not really secretive. This was just a picture of something in the Super Museum. It's actually, from what I understand, it's the key to Metropolis that was given to Noelle Neal, who played Lois Lane on the Adventures of Superman TV show and in I think one of the serials. It just was a fun picture that I was like, that might make a good background, because I can be in the middle of the S shield at the end of the key and the M at the other end of the key. But it was part of there's a section in the Super Museum dedicated to the Adventures of Superman with George Reeves, because Jim Hambrick, who was the founder of the Super Museum, and all of his collection is part of the Super Museum. His Superman, like if you ask him, like, who's your Superman? George Reeves was his Superman. He grew up watching George Reeves, and so he always was a big fan of that version of the character. So he had a lot of stuff dedicated to George Reeves. So Noelle Neal is part of that. So sometimes when I walk through the Super Museum, I'm like, did they put out new stuff? I don't think I've ever seen that before. And so the key to Metropolis was something I had never seen as I've walked through it. And I feel like I've seen most of the things that are there, but I do think that they put out new things every year, which is nice because then I can find new things from their collection, because I'm sure they have tons of things in a warehouse somewhere that nobody ever sees. And so that's nothing secretive, just a thing that I took a picture of while I was in the museum. I was like, that would be a good background.
Speaking of the museum, this was a question Abby had that I starred for later because I wanted to know as well. What is the highest value item at the museum?
Ooh.
And how does that item rank to the wooden doll?
Oh,
the wooden action figure.
well, actually, for that, it was called a wooden
Oh, it
doll.
was called
Yeah.
a doll. Okay, excuse me. Back to doll.
I actually don't know. I'm gonna plead ignorance on this. One of the things I wish that I could talk to the Super Museum about is I want to ask them if they have like an Excel spreadsheet,
Of all their items.
of all of the objects in their collection. I would love to know if they have documentation of those things, and if they didn't, I would volunteer to do it for free. Like I would volunteer to go in there and like do an inventory or try to put something together. One of the things that I would really love to see for the Super Museum, and I've been trying to, because I work in museums for a living, and so I never want it to seem like I could do this better or whatever. But I think the questions like this, I think, would be really fun to address from the Super Museum. If you emailed them, they would probably email you back or Facebook message, and they would probably get you that information. But I would love to see more, like just like a QR code next to an object in the collection that you would scan. It would tell you some information. So I don't know. I would be guessing. I'm probably one of the suits.
Oh,
is my guess. Either the Christopher Reeve suit or the George Reeves. They have several George Reeves suits. So my guess is the suits. And I may have to like take a break because my voice is about to go. But I did notice there was another historic Superman museum somewhere else where they had Dean Cain. They had Dean Cain sign one of their suits. And I was like, what are you doing? That ruins the value of what are you doing? Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know the answer to it, but my guess is probably one of the suits.
And then I saw, Abby says that you do have amazing Google Doc experience. I think that would come in handy.
I do. I'm not as experienced with Excel. I would probably need help with that. That's a different skill set.
We'll tap my husband in. He'll help.
Yeah, but I think it would be really cool if they had a like inventory of kind of, but I don't think they would advertise. It's probably not smart to say we have this $50,000 object in our collection. They may not advertise. Please come and steal it.
But yeah, just knowing what the depth of the collection every year, you come back with fun new tidbits. And new fun little treasures from the Super Museum. And so I'd be interested to know what all they have in there and a little bit more about the background.
My dream goal, and I've been trying to figure out how to approach them about this, is that I would love what I would pitch to the Super Museum is being like, hey, if you will give me a list of your objects in your collection, could I pick like 4 or 5 of them, put them in a little theme, and create exhibit panels around those things, and just give some historical context behind.
We could do some research.
I mean, we know a lot of Superman experts.
We do. We have them on speed dial.
Yeah, so
we can phone a friend.
So if there was something that we could put together that would be of interest, I mean, I would do that for free. I would just want to help them, create a little more educational value in there, because otherwise you're just, for these episodes, I'm like looking up stuff online. That's how I'm finding the information. I know they have a collection of cereal boxes, and I know that sounds silly, but back in the 1950s with the Adventures of Superman, there were, you can see these on YouTube. There were commercials that George Reeves and the cast of the Adventures of Superman shot to promote Kellogg's in association with the show. And so I think
That's cool.
that's such an interesting history that like back then those TV shows were obviously just like now with TV shows. It's funny, like TV is really to sell products.
Yes.
You know,
It's
You're-
all an artistic commercial.
yeah. And so I would love to see like cereal boxes over the course of time. I'm sure they have a ton of cereal boxes.
I mean, I know that they don't have a lot of room, but imagine like an exhibit of the cereal boxes and then like a little TV showing the ad behind it.
There were
So you got
several
the
of them.
context.
Yeah, George Reeves is selling you sugar smacks and cornflakes. Things like-
So good.
so I think that would be really neat. So I would love to see objects like that. Like have a spotlight on that 1939 wooden doll that's the first superhero
Yes,
action figure.
it's so cool.
Make that more prominent. I would love that. People would be so interested in that. So no, I don't know the answer to that, but my guess is some of the more high profile items like the suits, or they have a flying harness from Superman the movie with Christopher Reeve. Some of those may be more high value items. So those are my guesses.
That's really cool. And then the last thing I started was from Stanley, who said that James Gunn did announce Supergirl is one of the big 4 characters in his DCU. So we might get our summer of Supergirl next year.
I'm expecting it. I'm starting the summer of Supergirl now.
I'm
Like,
anticipating
I'm
it.
preparing for my next summer. I imagine that's because she's like the second movie in line, but I would like to think that she'll be prominent.
I have to imagine that she will be. And that she will be she will have her whole line of things, of promotional items. I'm like, yes, I'm excited about Superman. Yeah, the stuff that they're going to release is going to be fun. But maybe I say I'm going to save my money. I'm going to save my money because I'm going to do it up next year. Next year I'm buying everything. I'm going broke.
And what if they don't have anything? You're going to
My
be like,
God. Well, then I'm going to be like, well, good thing I stole that truck full of Supergirl figures.
We did not do that.
We did not do that. Allegedly. The funny thing is, like, I still haven't bought it. So
I haven't either.
If anybody ever bangs down the door to try to go into this mystery, they're going to find 0 Supergirl figures in my house.
They were sold out, so I haven't either.
They're hard to find, I think, because somebody stole that whole truck of them.
Where did they go? Nobody knows.
I hope they're at least Supergirl fans.
Me too. Morgan, could you take us through how to get
Absolutely,
because I'm about to lose it, so I need to go get some water. So if you could take people through how to get in touch with us, that would be great.
Worries. While Rebecca rests her instrument, I'm going to say that's going to do it for this episode of Supergirl Radio. If you'd like to contact Supergirl Radio, you can post a comment on our website at supergirlradio.com. You can email us at supergirlradio@gmail.com. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on X and Instagram, all at Supergirl Radio. If you like what we do, we encourage you to give us a rating and write a review on Apple Podcasts. Supergirl Radio is part of the DC TV podcast and Multiverse of Color networks. And you can hang out with us as we go live and wired on Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern on the DC TV podcast YouTube channel. DC TV podcast also has a TeePublic store. So if you're in need of any new DC TV related t-shirts, tank tops, sweatshirts, magnets, tote bags, pins, phone cases, pillows, or stickers, go to supergirlradio.com and click on the TeePublic store link at the top of the page. I don't think I have appreciated how many things Rebecca says at the end of every episode.
I need to make that more of a pre-recorded thing like we used to, so that we could have a break. I need to do that.
Remember when I used to have to like read out all of the different podcasts and then I like revolt it and made other people do it?
What an amazing time in Supergirl Radio history. That was always fun to see how you would interpret that.
It was usually just exhaustion about halfway through the list, forgetting names of podcasts.
You had to train for it.
I had to train for it. I was like running up the rocky steps, just making sure I was screaming the names of the podcasts as I went. And since the new Superman movie is coming up, We have some designs in the DC TV Podcast T Public Store that will let people know that you went to the theater specifically for Supergirl. Everybody else is there for Superman. You like him fine, but you're just here for Supergirl.
Yeah, we'll go see a movie called Superman, but only if there is a Supergirl in it. So we have lots of designs for you to choose from. So get your Just Here for Supergirl shirts before the movie. I was so mad at myself that I did not get mine before Superman Celebration. So next year,
that would be a fun next year. That's the year to wear it.
That's perfect.
Superman
yes.
Celebration. You let everybody know it's great. Superman's great. We all love him here at Celebration, but we're just here for Supergirl.
So I'll definitely have it for next Superman Celebration. So get your shirts and your various designs in the DC TV Podcast T Public Store. Well, we would also like to thank our legion of super sponsors for supporting the Supergirl Radio Patreon page. These are people are Michael, Anne-Marie, Yvonne, Nicola, Abby, Miriam, Nicole, Brian, Ethan, Majuba, Andy, Rachel, and Kit. If you'd also like to become a Legion of Super sponsor, you can go to patreon.com/Supergirl Radio. If you want to follow me on the interwebs, you can do so in a couple places. My favorite social media platform is Vero True Social. You can find me over there at Derby Kid. I share what I'm watching, what I'm listening to, some pictures, some links of things that I'm interested in. So you can catch me over there. I'm also on Instagram at The Derby Kid. I have a YouTube channel at youtube.com/DuckMoleProd. Really got to get some new content up there. It's been a while, so I got to get back to that maybe in the fall. And I'll be doing some travel content over at Oasis Broom on social media and YouTube next month. So that's where you can find me.
Nice. You can find me on different platforms at Mojotastic, and you can also find me as a co-host on the Legendary Ladies podcast, which you can find on Instagram and YouTube, importantly at the Legendary Ladies, where this sometime a little bit later this week, we will have up an interview with the comic writer Tim Seeley, who wrote the comic Revival, which they are now turning into a sci-fi show called Revival,
of course,
starring Melanie Scarfano from Winona Earp. So if you're a big Earper, this is a great way to support Melanie. If you're a fan of the comic book Revival, I was going to call it Survival. I guess you survive as well. This is a great show to check out. The first episode just aired, and we got to talk to Tim about the whole process of going from the page to the screen, and how winding that process is, and what it's like to see something that you made as a comic book get translated for a TV show, and how different that can be. So it was a really fun conversation. I think people are really going to enjoy it.
So they call them Earpers?
The Winona Earp fans are called Earpers.
I did not know this.
Yep. I think that there was like a line of dialogue in the show where they were like, "Oh yeah, all the Wyatt Earp fans come into this bar, and like the Earpers are always here." And the Winona Earp fans just ran with it. They really liked that. But as soon as I saw that Melanie Scarfano was going to be in Revival, I was like, "Oh, I should check that out." And the concept is really fun too. It's about a small town in Wisconsin where people just come back from the dead. People who died between a certain period of time just kind of pop back up. And it's about like what happens to the world when that happens in a small town in Wisconsin. It's kind of a noir thriller too. Like there's a murder mystery that's happening. It's a story about two sisters. So it's really interesting. It's a really interesting comic. I read a little bit of it. Kat had read the whole thing. And it's interesting to see, like, having read like the first couple issues right before watching the first episode, I was like, oh, okay, wow, I can see like exactly what they're adapting, but also some of the changes that they're making. And it was interesting to talk to the writer about like, how did it feel to watch this and see it's like so close yet, it's different. And he was like, yeah, there were some times where I was like,
That must be really hard if you had written something and then it got adapted and you were like, Oh,
Yeah.
the choices they're making.
It's funny because he said he was really involved with the show. He got to see a lot of the scripts. He got to kind of consult. He like went to set, and even still, he said when he was like watching some of the episodes, he was like, "Oh," because it's it's different when you have to translate something for the television medium. So we had a good chat with him over on the Legendary Ladies podcast. So that would be a fun one for you to check out if you haven't checked out the podcast yet, which you should have already done.
Definitely check them out. They are always high quality over there. Well, I think that's going to do it for this episode of Supergirl Radio. But until next time, I'm still Rebecca Johnson.
And I'm still Morgan Glennon. And we hope you enjoyed this year's visit to Metropolis.
McGurk! I love
Not mess
typing.
with my Google Docs, Meeksy.
Supergirl Radio is going live every night of the week. How do you like it? Is becoming a human burrito a plus or a minus? I don't know. It does seem snug.
I mean, they say you are what you eat.
Kira.
I love that.
So I do a podcast called Supergirl Radio, and one of our segments is Lena Luthor, Boardroom or Ballroom. Because
She looks like a boss in this coat.
Nasty Luthor like a different Luthor? It's not just Lena being mean?
No.
Helen Slater here. So fun to know that you're hosting a podcast called Supergirl Radio.
Yeah!